I'd like to hear his thoughts on what you discussed with the Know Your Enemy guys, particularly the usefulness of identifying fascisty elements and how we should understand / challenge those elements without it devolving into the checklist of is it fascism that Bessner was pushing back against in the previous conversation.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed that conversation, particularly because I, depending on who I'm talking to, sort of go into both of those modes of argument. And I think I'm one of those people who is down to argue that basically every president's been fascist and America's been fascist since like the Pequot War or Bacon's Rebellion, and that like one thing I did. I sort of align with the Know Your Enemy guys on is in the and I do agree about the inflation thing. This comes from, Bessner said, like, who know your enemy, which one are you looking at, right? The right wing one or the sort of liberal technocrat one? I think that's a fair point. And my orientation sort of has always been looking at the right, or at least my original one. And so when I see sort of the right wing get on a tick where they're clearly, in my opinion, minimizing what happened. And I agree, like insurrection, that stuff is a bit overblown, but like acting like Ashley Babbitt was there on an overcrowded tour. Right. Like that stuff really, like, I'm on guard against that stuff, but particularly in the context of all these motherfuckers. Because my thing about like a lot of the people that went to storm the Capitol, like I think if the major party I believed in told me that election was stolen, I think that's kind of grounds to storm the Capitol. The problem is the official lying and all the Republicans who lied about it. So that's why, like, and I always, like, if there's ever going to be a Jan 6 thing, I think it's horrible that would get focused on the people who decided to even, of course, some of them were cynical and knew like Trump was bullshit about, right? But that should not, that I agree that not should be the focus. But I am curious about like Trump and the GOP operatives he might have been talking to and who like they trust to sort of get certain balls rolling with different communities. But overall, like I love that conversation. I thought I think like I also agree with Bessner's thing on fascism, where I'm not interested in talking about fascism unless you're willing to call like Obama and Bush a type of fascist, which, and then I'm basically in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, so that maybe gets into some of what Bessner was saying about the difference between like the use of the word fascist in parts of the Black radical tradition and the use of the word fascist that's like very common in contemporary like resistancy contexts.
The Schneider one, I think, that's sort of the checklisty one you're talking about, and like that one, it does sound an awful lot like MAGA when you look back on it, like fixated on that. Like I see why people look at that checklist and like, how can Daniel say that this isn't fascism? Because look at this, fixated on decline and all that stuff, right? And yeah. I just had an aside, like it was interesting. I can't remember which like major publication guy came at Bessner really hard for that take, but nobody ever goes at like Timothy Schneider, just the historian, for basically having the exact same take. But
yeah, so right. So I mean, I think that like part of the politics of it, is one of the things I said in that discussion, seems like, okay, that sort of old school Black radical use of the word fascism, the point is to indict like, the American system as a whole. And at that point, it's like, okay, we could have the like kind of history nerd discussion about like whether it's like, okay, but fascism, means this specific thing, whatever. But like, I don't know how much appetite I have for like for getting into that, because I feel like I know what you mean, and I agree with you about the larger, more important thing. But then I think that the more the kind of valence of most of the Trump as a fascist stuff was kind of the opposite of that. It was kind of about emphasizing the discontinuity between Trump and everybody who came before.
That, and also like lump him in with Jeremy Corbyn as like an authoritarian, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that too.
Same sort of people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I do really like your point. I was kind of trying to hint at this a couple times in that discussion, but I think the way you just said it was much clearer. I probably should have just like said it that way. That because like the way that I was trying to hint at it was, or suggest that basic distinction you're making is by saying, okay, I mean, if you're talking about it's anti-democratic, people who stormed the Capitol anti-democratic, well, I mean, some of them were. I mean, some of them are like, you know, batshit lunatic, like, you know, whatever, like, you know, alt-right, you know, add whatever terms you want to. They're probably accurate or close enough to be accurate.
But Trump didn't say, help me steal this election. He says, this election is being stolen from me. Help me stop that. Right. Like that's.
Yeah, exactly. Like the motivations, presumably mostly true believers, their motivation is precisely to defend democracy in their heads. Like
exactly.
if I mean, like if there was a, I mean, if in 2000, there had been a massive protest at the Capitol during the certification of the vote, then I probably would have been at it. And if like some section of the crowd had split off to storm into the Capitol, then, you know, if I hadn't, it wouldn't be because I was tutting it, right? Let's put it that way.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like that would have been, like a totally reasonable thing. And whatever, I have been to lots of protests where at some point, you know, like the crowd or some portion of the crowd has like gone past police lines to like go into some area they're not supposed to, you know, go into, and kind of made a point of that. I mean, obviously this is much more extreme, but like it really seems like the problem like is that they were whipped up with these crazy lies about, you know, about Trump winning the election and told that he'd, you know, won the popular vote and, you know, and all this stuff. So if there's a way to, you know, if there's a way to have some sort of post January 6th focus on that, that would make sense. I don't really know what that looks like though.
I mean, I think like, because I think the ultimate, you got to the big, like, what was the ultimate fear was that this might work. This, you know, might work next time, which is like the election might be overturned next time, which I have some sympathy with. You look at like South America, how every time a pink tide guy wins, you know, there's the exact same sort of election interference or election stolen stuff is there. But
I mean, it is a little bit funny in the American context because you say, okay, if this is just the generic attempt to overturn an election, then like, yeah, that could happen. That did happen.
Right. Like, it happened in 2000, right? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like what happened on January 6th was really Trump wanted that play to run and they didn't run it for him. So he got his goons to come out and try to force them to do it. Right. Like that fundamentally, like the possibility it couldn't happen wasn't Trump's decision. Like if Trump could have made it happen, it happened. And he realized like, hey, you know, you're not doing for me what you did for W in 2000. Like, what's going on, guys? And he got pissed, I think, because I mean, everyone else who would have got involved in that had a different assessment of reality that he did. That how well they could get away with it, which I think, like
how well they could get away with it / how much it would be in their interest to push it. Like
exactly right, exactly.
I mean, they kind of gotten what they wanted from Trump. They got the Supreme Court justices and, you know,
Trump.
The tax cuts.
I'd always said Trump should have held on to and not seated Kavanaugh or someone, so he had something to hang over. No, wait, not Kavanaugh. What was?
But the second one, the Amy
Coney Barrett.
Yeah,
he should have kept that open because one, that would have driven out Republicans to fucking vote for him in the election, and also like he would have had some insurance. That's true. That's true. A slightly smarter Trump, advised by people who had his reelection more in mind, might have done that. You have been watching a free public preview for a patron exclusive episode of Give Them an Argument. To get the rest of this episode, plus patron exclusive episodes every single Thursday, as well as patron exclusive post games after the regular show every Monday night, and a lot more, head over to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. As a friend of mine used to put it, why be foolish?